The KTM 450 SXF nearly won the 450 MX Shootout last year. It finished in the runner-up spot with its strong but usable power band, good suspension, and nimble handling. For 2019, KTM made several changes to the engine, suspension, and chassis, similar to those found on last year's factory edition model. The stiffer frame, updated suspension settings, narrower chassis, and more agreeable ergonomics were all improvements, but the metal bottom-end power delivery made the bike feel heavy on the track, despite it being the lightest bike in the test at 234 pounds. The 2019 450 SXF is still an improvement over last year's model. Combine that with the fact that the other bikes have also continued to improve, and the KTM slid to 5th place in this year's standings. The first thing we did when we received the KTM was mount a Dunlop D404 street tire on the rear wheel and run it on our in-house dyno. The 450 SXF produced 50.79 horsepower at 9,320 RPM and 32.55 pound-feet of torque at 6,800 RPM. With those numbers, the 450 SXF ranks 4th among the 6 bikes in both the horsepower and torque categories. We then mounted a fresh set of Dunlop MX33 soft to intermediate terrain tires to ensure consistency and traction among the 6 competitors through the duration of the test. The KTM engine has a very smooth power delivery that makes it deceivingly fast. It's easy to ride, but doesn't have much of a bottom end hit, which makes it feel sluggish from a low RPM. This has an effect on how the KTM handles. Despite being the lightest bike in the test, it feels heavier than some of the other bikes that weigh more. There's also a noticeable amount of vibration at low RPM that dissipates at about a quarter throttle. The engine comes alive in the mid-range and top end, and revs to the moon while continuing to pull. The engine also shifts smoothly and is pleasantly quiet. The KTM has 2 maps that can be changed via the switch on the left side of the handlebar. It also has traction control, which can be used in either map. Map 1 offers slightly more bottom end power, while Map 2 delivers more top end and over rev with improved torque feel from the mid-range to the top end. Traction control mellows out the power delivery, and we found it worked best on Map 2. In the suspension department, the 450 SXF is equipped with a WP AER 48 air fork and WP shock. KTM updated the components to match the new chassis for 2019. Both the fork and shock get new damping settings, and the latter features an updated main piston. The fork offers lots of adjustability with air pressure, compression, and rebound. It has a plush feel throughout the stroke, but feels a bit bouncy with the stock clicker settings, especially on slap-down landings. Slowing down the rebound fixes this, and it also helped the front end track better during braking bumps and when cornering. Test riders went in on the rebound between 4 and 8 clicks depending on the track conditions and were pleased with the results. Having the ability to adjust the fork air pressure was advantageous. Lighter test riders ran less pressure than the stock 10.5 bar. They went down to 10.2 bar, while faster, heavier test riders went as high as 10.8 bar. The shock took less adjustments to dial in than the fork, with only a few test riders going in on the rebound and high-speed compression. Overall, the WP suspension on the KTM is good, but it's not quite as plush or comfortable as a Kawasaki or Yamaha in stock form. Fortunately, it's the most adjustable. With some time and testing, it can get fairly close. Moving on to the handling, the 2019 450 SXF gets a new, stiffer black frame, a more rigid upper triple clamp, and a revised swing arm that has a longer slot for the rear axle. The subframe is now 40mm longer, and the redesigned radiators are 12mm lower than the previous model. Designers also resculpted the fuel tank for better ergonomics, and there's new bodywork and a reshaped seat to match. The KTM is one of the best handling bikes in the class. It's very neutral, balanced, it corners well, and has good stability. The increased rigidity allows it to change direction quicker than the previous year model, yet it remains stable in a straight line. The 450 SXF is easy to move around on thanks to its ever-improving ergonomics. The rider triangle of the seat, handlebar, and foot pegs is very comfortable as well. Like the Husqvarna, the KTM has the strongest brakes in the class with Brembo components in the front and rear. The two also share excellent ODI lock-on grips. The reasons why it should have won are that it has a neutral handling chassis, the strongest brakes, a hydraulic clutch, and it's the lightest bike in the class. The reasons why it did not win are that the engine has a mellow bottom end power delivery that lacks excitement, which makes the bike feel heavier than it really is. Also, the stock suspension doesn't match the comfort or performance of the Kawasaki or Yamaha.